your biggest reaches on the PFF draft board.
Yeah,
we have to discuss reaches as well. I know reach. Oh, what's a reach? I mean, look, it's just we valued a guy lower than where they went. All right. Hey, they could become Hall of Famers. Never know. That's how everybody hedges these days.
Yeah,
we could be wrong. Everybody can become a Hall of Famer. But these are the guys we thought, should have gone later in the draft.
Yes,
obviously. So, who are we starting with?
Let's start with Daniel Jones, since we just kind of touched on him in the Giants. We said something good. We're going to talk something bad. But we're going to say something good later about the Giants again, too. But Daniel Jones is just a day 2 guy on our board. He was not a guy we would pencil in at number 6, like they're doing, as our franchise quarterback of the future, what we're pinning our hopes to going forward. I wouldn't have felt comfortable enough in that tape that we saw at Duke to do that. That's the fact of the matter. We're not saying it's impossible. We're not drafting him on day 2 if we think it's impossible for him to become a good quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, we're just thinking it's unlikely.
And you're being pegged as a Daniel Jones apologist.
I am. Like, everyone's really hating on it, and I don't think it's that egregious of a pick. Like, I think if you there's things on his tape that you can evaluate and say these are NFL level things that he does. I love his footwork. I love his mechanics, the way he throws the ball. Throws the ball with anticipation, which I think is a really important trait when translating to the NFL. Not a lot of guys in college do it. I don't think it's something that you can necessarily develop once you get to the NFL, that ability to see it, throw a route before it's breaking. He has that. It's just not necessarily accurate.
I think the bottom line with all of this is the Giants, it felt like they were going in looking for an Eli replacement / clone rather than the next great quarterback. They went in and said, give me the guy who looks the part. Give me the guy who had the same coach as Eli. Give me the guy who's going to handle criticism when he's not good. Hey, that's Daniel Jones. He's got a great character. Like, you're trying to replace a guy who for the last 5 years has been the 23rd best quarterback in the NFL, 22nd best quarterback in the NFL. And you may have found him. And Daniel Jones' peak is probably sneaks into the top 20 NFL quarterbacks 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. That's
part of extremely well or solid. He just does a lot of things solid.
I just can't get how you can look at the 2018 draft class, and pass on Sam Darnold, and look at 2019 and draft Daniel Jacobs with similar-ish players. And
Daniel Jones. Jacobs is just in your head.
I know.
That's why you type it in.
I know. That's why it's Daniel Jones passing on Josh Allen, the edge defender. When Sam Darnold and actually Daniel Jones are similar type of quarterbacks from what we saw from them in college, with Darnold just being superior in terms of performance on the field.
Being younger, better at short area accuracy, better outside the pocket.
Everything. And then Josh Allen being a more valuable position. So
there's two. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I think it's important. Dave Gettleman said 2 things at his press conference that answered your question, essentially. Because he was hired late in the process, he didn't get to see the 2018 quarterback class
live
in person, live. He did see Daniel Jones live, and he saw especially those 3 series at the Senior Bowl that said this looks like a professional quarterback.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on my whole rant where if you
bring him in for a visit.
I know. Well, I don't mind seeing a guy live. If I was a general manager, I would go see these guys live. But if you think that the performance that they had in that game should be weighed way more than the other 2,000 passes that they had, then it's just
how
stupid.
He carries himself, Steve. You don't get it. That's how he carries himself.
Here's one other thing, though. Last year, we saw Gettleman take Saquon Barkley, right? He got criticized just like he's getting criticized this year. How did he defend Saquon Barkley? He actually had some on-field answers. He was like, this guy's a 9. I've never scouted a 9. That's the best I've ever scouted. He does this. He's shifty. He can catch the ball. He's today's running back. He actually had all of these on-field answers for why he drafted Saquon Barkley, which I can respect. Like, I respect what you saw with your eyes. The defense of Daniel Jones was like, he'll handle criticism, and he's a good kid, and he looked like a quarterback for 3 series. Like, even we've seen how he defends good players.
Yeah.
He's not even doing it the same way.
Yeah.
Defending Daniel Jones. So all of that stuff adds up to one of the biggest reaches on the PFF draft board. Who else we got?
We have Rashod Gary. No need to beat this dead horse again. We know.
Check out the rest of the YouTube channel and podcast. Yeah.
There's just nothing from an on-field production standpoint. There's no way to slice his numbers. There's no way to justify it in our world of production-based being one of the most important things going to the next level. He just did not have college production. Rashod Gary.
And Brian Burns had more pressure. So just hypothetically, Brian Burns had more pressures, I think, last year than Gary's previous 2, right?
Yeah.
So if they had gotten Brian Burns, all we're saying is there's a higher percentage chance that Brian Burns has a better NFL career than Rashod Gary. Gary still has a chance,
Yeah.
But, man, they could have had some other higher percentage plays at number 12. Who else we got?
We have Clelin Ferrell, who we kind of touched on also as well in the conversation with Chase Winovich earlier. But
player we like.
Think is going to rush the passer well. He was drafted number 4 overall to be a solid NFL player is what I think you're getting in Clelin Ferrell. You're not getting anything. If you could have had a similarly typed player, 26 overall in Montez Sweat, that is, you're not getting your draft capital back there. Whereas you can trade down. You could even take the Steelers trade and get the 20th overall pick and then get a second back and get a guy of similar sort of stature to Clelin Ferrell. Obviously, Josh Allen, even regardless of if you think Josh Allen wasn't a scheme fit, which I think is baloney, but just because a guy didn't play 4-3 in college does not mean he couldn't play 4-3 in the NFL. But
when it's all the same, just rush the passer. Go get
exactly,
the quarterback.
But I think that's ridiculous. But if you weren't going to draft Josh Allen because the scheme fit, throw it out the window. I think you could have gotten a similarly skilled player at 20 overall, 26 overall. You could have traded back, recouped more draft value if you really wanted someone like Clelin Ferrell, who we're saying is a good player, but not 4th overall type of.
I think Cleveland's career will be compared to Josh Allen's career.
Oh, yeah.
And just see how they progress. I always like doing that. The two, the what ifs and how they compare, years down the road. So that'll be a telling sign. Josh Jacobs, the other Raiders first-round pick, I think has to be on this list just because of the running back value thing that we keep coming down to. The difference between Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery in the 3rd, or Josh Jacobs and Jordan Scarlett in the 5th.
Yeah.
How big of a difference is there? It's marginal.
Yep.
That's it.
You're sort of, the situation plays so much of a role into a running back success that you're just not getting that draft value of the 24th overall pick. Again, you could have had Montez Sweat there.
The answer generally is, even though he's a good receiving running back, so the answer generally is to get his value, you need to throw him the ball more because he's a good receiving threat. And that's where our guys are like, well, actually, you don't want to throw the ball to the running back too often. It's actually a low value proposition.
It's good if he's your last read. You'd rather it be Josh Jacobs than, say, Jordan Howard that you're checking the ball down to.
Agreed. Yeah.
You don't want that to be your first, second read. You don't want that to be, one read check down. Like, you don't want that in your quarterback's mind being always go to the check down. Doesn't lead to better results as any sort of downfield passing does. So that's the thing.
I would say too, if they move Jacobs around a little bit and you've got Antonio Brown on the field and Tyrell Williams, and if you start developing all these weapons, he's a good piece of that. It's tough to justify it at 24. And rounding it out, Mike, who else we got? Biggest reaches on the PFF draft board.
Jelani Tavai, the linebacker out of Hawaii.
Yeah,
super athletic.
And we talked about this on the NFC podcast. Even though all of the Patriots coaching tree coveted him, and even if Belichick would have taken him in the 2nd round, we still would have said, that's higher than it should have been. 43 overall to the Detroit Lions for that hybrid linebacker slash edge. Clearly, they all have a type.
Yeah.
The Belichick, Patricia, assuming Brian Flores tree, they have a type of player, but it's a type of player that's not as coveted by the rest of the NFL, and that's a lot. He's got to play really well, for that value to be justified.
Yeah.
He's got to be much better than even Kyle Van Noy.
Exactly, and he is basically Kyle Van Noy. He's just not very athletic. When he did rush the passer, he was solid, not spectacular at rushing the passer. There's just a lot of guys with his skill set who went later on in this draft that can give you replaceable results for that role. I just don't see him. He's not an impact type of player. He's just a guy who can fill that role. He just has the skill to fill that role. Nothing, versatility in my mind is only valuable if you can do any of those versatile skills well. And I'm not sure he does.
It reminds me of the Patriots back in 2012 drafted Tavon Wilson in the 2nd round, and everybody's like, who? The guy out of Illinois? And he's essentially been, Tavon Wilson, a pretty good role player.
Yeah.
And he's now with Detroit.
Exactly.
Played with New England and then Detroit.